AUTOSAR. Explained by Annette Kempf.
Welcome. Thank you for joining another AUTOSAR session on AUTOSAR Classic. Today we will have a look on the RTE, the real-time environment. But the first look we'll take on the website to navigate through to the RTE pages. So what you see now in this first picture is the AUTOSAR web page. And within the AUTOSAR web page, we can navigate to the standards. So you have Classic Platform, Adaptive Platform, Foundation, and Application Interfaces. And now we'll have a look at the Classic Platform again. So here's the information on the Classic Platform, but we saw in the previous events, and I opened another window to navigate directly to the architecture overview. So this is the architecture overview, which is in the current release, 23.11, which was released in November last year. And in the previous sessions, we had a look at the microcontroller abstraction layer, ECU abstraction layer, services layer, and also the complex drivers. And today we will have a look at the runtime environment, in short, RTE. So this is the view on the current release. The current release, as I said, it's 11.23. And the platform is the Classic Platform. Of course, you can also select previous releases in this window. So now we'll have a look first at the specification to see the motivation about RTE, and then we'll have a look in the requirements and get back to the specification. In the specification, you get the explanation on what the RTE is, saying what's inside the document. So AUTOSAR Runtime Environment, short RTE, and the basic software scheduler are described in this document. And basically the RTE, together with the operating system and the AUTOSAR communication and other basic software modules, is the implementation of the virtual function bus. And the virtual function bus, we have within the Embedded Academy 2 e-learning within our AUTOSAR e-learning. And this is more or less giving you an introduction into this direction. What's also important to know is that the RTE really implements the AUTOSAR virtual function bus interfaces and thereby realizes the communication between AUTOSAR software components. As we saw now in this picture, in the past it was all in one document, and now it's split into two documents. So you have all the requirements in a separate document, where we'll have a look into now, because usually if requirements come first. Yeah? Requirements are here. The requirements are structured into in general, it's the requirements of the RTE, and they're structured in functional requirements and non-functional requirements. But more or less, all the requirements are functional requirements. And there, then here you have it also structured into the different chapters. Maybe I open a little bit more, because if we go into detail, it will be too much detail. So it's the interaction with AUTOSAR operating system, because this is a very, very important communication, the AUTOSAR COM. Then also the interaction to the application software components. Yeah. So we are looking at this application software, application layer. Then the basic software components, which are here in the basic software area below the RTE. The generation of a basic software scheduler, support for measurement and calibration. Then you have some general requirements, tracing on the virtual function bus, application software component initialization and finalization. So you have also a life cycle there, or startup and shutdown. The interfaces, C++ API, then initialization and finalization operations, partitioning, fault operation, and also the handling of plugins. And for non-functional requirements, it's just like a short chapter with only 2 requirements. So all these requirements are described in this 100 pages document, and the specification on the RTE software is then implementing these requirements. The specification is structured into, like, you have an introduction, you have a RTE overview. I would say we'll not go into everything in detail, but some chapters. So we already heard the beginning, that the RTE on this specification is the implementation of the virtual function bus concepts. The RTE in overview, it's more or less in the principle. RTE can be divided into these 2 main subparts: the communication between software components and the scheduling of the software components. So this is like the component architecture and the dynamic architecture aspects. I would say this is, for now, it's enough. And you see it's a huge specification, which is describing a lot of details. It has lots of UML models inside and so on. Maybe a short look at the functional specification. There you see that there are the UML models and the description. And what I wanted to show here is this one picture on application software components, or in general, where the RTE is the center. And you see really the architectural concept behind of the virtual function bus. Here above, you have the application software components. This part is more or less, these are really also within the AUTOSAR standard. Only the interfaces and the scheduling is described, whereas in the basic software, a lot more details are described. And you see here the interfaces and the implementation of these interfaces, how this is connected. So this is one of the pictures I would say is very important to have like a general understanding on how everything is connected. It's a different view to the component view we saw on the first page. And we'll now go back to this component view here on the first page. What I want to show you now is one extract of the embedded academy e-learning on AUTOSAR Classic, where runtime environment is described on a high level. And as I said, the details are done in 2 separate e-learning on the virtual function bus, but this is part then of a package you would have to purchase. So we'll have a look now, and I will be back soon.
The runtime environment provides communication services to the application software. It is the realization of the interfaces of the AUTOSAR Virtual Functional Bus, for a particular ECU. The RTE is acting as the means by which AUTOSAR software components access basic software modules including the operating system and communication service. It also provides the infrastructure services that enable communication to occur between AUTOSAR software components. If the components lay on the same ECU, the communication is solely based on the runtime environment. In this case, the virtual connections between the components are mapped onto local connections. If the components lay on different ECUs, the basic software is also involved. In this case, the virtual connections between the components are mapped on network technology-specific communication mechanisms, such as CAN, or flex-ray frames. The main task of this layer is to make the AUTOSAR software components independent of the mapping to a specific ECU. Here you see a summary of what you just heard.
So I hope you enjoyed this introduction into the Runtime Environment RTE, which was an extract from the Embedded Academy e-learning. So I hope you enjoyed it. And there's one part remaining. So in about 4 weeks' time, we will provide you with details on the application layer of AUTOSAR Classic. Thank you for joining today. I wish you a very nice day. Bye-bye.
If you want to learn more about AUTOSAR and other interesting topics, go to embedded-academy.com.